What were your broadcastable thoughts when that draw came out?
Well, tough draw. It's toughest draw in the game, really, isn't it? Saints away, but we'll concern ourselves with this week too, James. First, I think we're not looking too far forward. In fact, no one's mentioned it. From yesterday to today, I've not heard any of the playing group mentioned it. We're very firmly focused on Cass, and we'll turn his attention to that. But yeah, obviously, I think clearly for a couple of years they are the benchmark team. So it's a massive challenge for us.
Just a broader point regarding the Challenge Cup, given the fact that the final's in July and obviously there's a bigger gap between Wembley and Old Trafford, is there a more viable chance this year of any club having a tilt at both comps?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a viable chance anyway. I know it's historically hard. But yeah, I think the way it's formatted, it'll probably give you a little bit more chance of probably timing it right at the end of the year. What I would say is it sort of depends. The congestion of fixtures really hurt us last year. As much as the Challenge Cup, I don't take this as verbatim, but we played 6 games in 20, low 20s days, something like that. I think that had a bigger impact. By the time we turned up to play Catalan in the playoff game, I think our last game at Wakefield, we played Wakefield twice in 3 days, if you remember, and we played them once at St Helens, and even in changing rooms before, mate, we could tell we were dealing with a team that had very little left in tank. We put a patched up team out at Wakefield, and if we'd have had to play, I think it was Wigan and Castle were slated to play. I'm not sure how we could have wheeled our players out on the field then. The 2 weeks prep gave us half a chance to get ready, but it was more the fixture congestion rather than Wembley, I think, what had a bigger impact on his team, if I'm honest.
So I'm sure you've pored over that opening Super League game. What's encouraged you most about that performance?
I probably haven't changed my thoughts since watching it till what I watched at the time. Believe it or not, and I know what there is an immediate rush to judge everybody on the title credentials based on round one. We didn't expect to have a title-winning performance out in round one, James. Goes without saying, I think we'd eight blokes missing. I know 7 of them will come back. Jack Walker won't, but we've got an awful lot of strike and experience out of our team at this moment in time. So, given our preparation, believe it or not, I was reasonably happy. I saw enough in our game. I thought our ruck control for most of the game were very, very good in the middle of the field. Our quick play the balls were limited to single figures, which I think in any game at this moment in time is very, very good. I thought we looked like we got points in us. I thought Wakefield can come in waves like they do, and I thought when they got that wave, they attacked really, really well. But we point to some of our right edge again, their left edge. We very much came off second best. I think we had some spacing issues, some missed tackles, some positional errors on that right side. But we see that as a pretty, I say straightforward fix up. We still got to nail it, but I could see some, some issues on us right edge that I think, clearly we've got to spend a little bit of time working on. And overall, I felt a couple of things. The length of the field tries, we should be majorly disappointed. I think Tommy Briscoe would have liked to have done a better job on Tommy Johnston at that point. And, the kick, we don't need Luke to sort of stick his hand up for kicking the ball backwards in Tom Johnston's area. Is a pretty, we laid it on a plate really well for him. But that apart, I think the defensive issues on his right-hand side ironing out. I thought there were lots of positives. I've watched a lot of the games, and I thought as attack in good periods looked very sleek. When we've looked at the stats, I think we've really dominated the territory for long periods. So plenty to take out. As we understand, there'll be bits to work on. I think they were fairly apparent too. And in round one, watching all the other teams, I think a lot of other teams had similar issues to what most teams did in round one.
Did you pick up any knocks, and have you got anyone to come back possibly this week?
No, we've no one to come back. Look, Kyle Eastman we'll probably leave Kyle another week. he's the one that's most likely to go in contention this week. But on a short turnaround, we'll probably leave Kyle. And then, mate, it's probably going to be another 2 or 3 weeks, I think, before we get Conrad, Ash Hanley. Off the top of my head, I think those guys are the first guys back for us. So, yeah, we are where we are at this moment in time, mate.
So just a second guess from what you've just said, could Kyle Eastman's first game be against Saints?
Yeah, potentially. We'll see how he goes. As I say, it's unlikely he'll play this week, so potentially it could be against Saints the week after. And again, James, we'll see how we go because, clearly not going to tempt any fate and try and predict lineups for 9 days time at this moment in time. I think we're definitely not looking too far in front at this moment.
But have you seen an improvement? Not an improvement, but have you seen a progression from Kyle over the last sort of week to 10 days?
Yeah, and I think apart from the strides he's making physically, it's the other part of it too, where rolling out video meetings. The pictures are becoming a lot clearer for him. Playing as a halfback, he's got to understand principally how we're playing, what we're looking for, principally cause and effect wise, how we manipulate space, how we play on numbers, and some of those trends and nuances have definitely changed in his time away. But he can see some similarities, I guess, about the more unscripted chaos part of the game, and some similarities between the sport he's just come out of. But we need a good run of him in the team training, which on a short turnaround this week, we're probably not going to get that too. So, yeah, we'll see, mate. As I said last weekend, we will play it. We will play it week by week where Kyle's concerned.
Can I just ask you about Jack Broadbent? Obviously,
Yes.
he's been getting some mentions after last week.
Yes.
Can you give us an insight into him as someone who sees him obviously in training and now in match day as a 20-year-old? Is he, in terms of his progression, is he where you expect him to be, and how far do you think he can go?
Yeah, I felt sorry for Jack last year when we played those 3 games, and 2 of the 3 games we had to play him as a 6. Out of all his positions, we see him as a centre. He can really ably fill in as a winger, and in training, quite often he holds his gloves up as a fullback and a little bit of a part-time 6. And I think in his game last year, when we played Warrington away, he went opposite Anthony Gelling and had a really strong performance against him. Clearly, as a club, we're quite well off for centres with Liam Sutcliffe, Harry, Conrad, Alex Sutcliffe's played a number of games for us too. So this is a fair little bit, but we always felt Jack, given his utility value, but also given the type of kid that he is, he's ultra professional, trains really well every day. His talk in training and talk within games is sensational. He's a real student of the game. Jack's got a background where he actually trained as a referee as well, which I think tells you a bit of a story about what type of a rugby league person he is. And he's just a really genuinely nice guy. I think he understands where he's at this moment in time, the bits he's got to work on. He understands his strengths, and he also understands that he'd had to be patient and wait for this opportunity. But we're always confident that at some point an opportunity would unravel. And we challenged him and Corey in the pre-season trial game, actually. We put a little bit of pressure on him and said, look, there will be a spot going in round 1. And I thought Jack rose to that challenge really well, even though he got moved to fullback. He had a strong outing in that game. So, yeah, we were almost confident. I thought it was a great learning curve for him too, James, going again a strong Wakefield edge. So he received a lot of plaudits, but he also knows that Bill Tupou, scorched him a couple of times as well. And he understands that when you get to this level, it's not like playing academy football, mate, where you when you're in a strong team, you can get away with a little blip or a mistake and your teammates cover it up and you don't get burned, but you do get burned quite badly for any little blips when you play Super League, whether that be a marker play, half missed tackle, you get your spacing wrong and open up some footwork on the outside here, you're not in connection with your winger. And yeah, as we saw, we had a couple of them last week, but as I said, we think they're easy fix-ups. And he will be better and more confident for the run and the experience he got last week. But he's a super young professional.
What do you think you'll get from Cass this week?
Yeah, we were pretty impressed with him last week. I felt, the first sort of summary that comes into my head about Cass was hard work. I thought they worked really, really hard for each other and played with a really positive attitude in the way they went about the game, both attack and defence. And of course, it's a derby game, so we certainly wouldn't expect any less from him this week. In fact, we would expect a little bit more in terms of what they're going to bring in that aspect to the game. Clearly, they've got some standout players. Current Man of Steel in there that's very prominent for him as a dummy half, and he's a very clever player, Paul. Jake Truman, after some injury issues towards the back end of last year, again, he looked fit and confident, and I thought his touch on the ball, certainly close in the last 20, 30 metres, his touch with ball in hand, but particularly his kicking game and his vision on his kicking game, when to kick, when to run, where the space was. I thought he was very, very intelligent last week. I think Niall Levels is clearly going to be a terrific addition for him. He's a very gifted attacking player for sure.
And finally, for me, were you surprised by Daryl's decision?
I know Daryl pretty well, but I don't know enough about it, James. You know what I mean? I really, I think we all come to that as a coach sometimes. I can only refer to myself without wanting to make a question about myself. When I coached Wakefield, and I coached for 2 years, mate, 2 years and a bit, and I sort of knew that probably 4 to 5 games into that season, I knew I needed a change, and for them to be successful, they probably needed a change as well, because of how I was feeling at that time and with the circumstances around the club. I think it's really hard to talk about Daryl individually and what his plans are, because I've not had that conversation with him. I might do if I rock into him on Friday. But what I would say is I think his tenure there has been outstanding. To have them into such a consistent team. I know they've had the odd, last year was a little bit more difficult year, but there was certainly some intangibles thrown into last year for us all, really. I think where he got the team to where he took them consistently well and got the best out of players that he's had, and in particular when they played a terrific brand of rugby league the year that they won the minor premiership. And got to the grand final, and probably the year before that, really. I think he's done a wonderful job and did a great job in his job before that too. So it clearly wouldn't surprise me if there weren't too many clubs that were looking at a coaching change, that Daryl wouldn't be high on the list. I just hope it's not mine. Best win some games.
Did you say Jack Broadbent had a refereeing background?
No, he's done his refereeing qualifications, but I think Jack and his mum. Is Batley Boys, is he from? Batley Boys Club is his junior club. I think they've been, very prominent people within that club. He has got a strong rugby league background, loves the game, did his refereeing qualification. Don't ask me how many games he's refereed, Pete, because I can't help you on that one, and what level he refed at. But hopefully he's got a career as a player before he even starts to think about putting himself through that. But yeah, he has, mate, and he's very vocal, not in terms of liking the sound of his own voice, but he can sit in a team meeting. He's not afraid to speak up. He understands the pictures, what's in front of him. Which for a young player, finding his voice in team meetings like that can be a bit of a challenge sometimes, but he's got the confidence to speak up when the time's right. He's also got an ability to accept some feedback, if you know what I mean. If a coach has got some things to tell him what he needs to improve on, he's very keen to soak it up and go away and learn about that. So yeah, he's a very, very well respected member of our group.
I think Phil mentioned to me yesterday that Callum McClellan's had an operation. Have you got an update on how long he'll be out for? Or?
Yeah, 4 weeks, that's all, which is great. I think it's been it's been a difficult one because it's been going away, flaring up, and we had a specialist that got to the bottom of it, and I think it's been fairly routine minor surgery. Had it yesterday afternoon. Spoke to him this morning, and he's feeling all good and relieved it's done, and hopefully we get him back in contention in sort of 4 weeks' time.
And just last one from me, how's Harry Newman getting on? Is he making good progress?
Yeah, he's great. He, I think, being injured for so long and such a massive injury, it's natural you'll get the down day. I think he's been pretty magnificent from start to finish on his rehab, and then the last little bit's probably taken a bit more time than he would have wanted. I think he wanted to be back in contention around mid to the end of April. That's probably going to be pushed back 2 or 3 weeks. We're probably looking at first, second week in May, something like that now. So the challenges he's faced on that aren't so much physical ones. It's just everything's gone so swimmingly well that you can cop for a little bit of disappointment for it along the way. But he's handled it well. I've said this before. Physically and body-wise, he looks a picture. He's really day by day utilising his time. Very determined to come back. Already talking about what his first carry is going to look like when he gets going again. So yeah, but we'll look after him too. We're not going to put him back on the field after such a long stint out until we know he's ready to go. But we'll get there with him. We'll get there.
How's Jack Walker, Rich? What's the latest on him?
Yeah, he's had his operation, so he's just at the moment, he's just rest and recuperate. There's not a lot he can do just yet. He's had, sizable, complicated surgery on his foot. So Jack is he had to isolate for 2 weeks before he had his operation. So we've not seen Jack for 3 or 4 weeks. But his operation was a success. He's in positive spirits, and he's doing all right, mate. It's going to be a long process for him to get back. But right now, post surgery, yeah, he's fine.
With Kyle, are you finding getting a bit impatient or anything like that? Or are you sort of just no, not at all.
Not at all, mate. No.
That's sort of good, I suppose. Like he sort of waited 10 years to play rugby league again, but he's more than happy to sort of take it each week and things like that. I'm more than happy to say, look, we're going to give you another week to get adjusted.
He's missed one game. He's signed for 2 years and he's missed one game, mate. So he may well miss 2 this week. He may well, but he's missed one game. So no, we've signed him, and I said this, in the build up to the game. We've signed him for the long term, not for the next month. No, and it's important for us that when we get him back, he's good to go, knows what he's doing, physically in a good condition. And while his debut is highly anticipated by us, by our fans, by the general game as a whole, who, the spotlight will be on him. We want to make sure that when that moment comes, he's as well prepared as he can be to do that. And again, I was saying, we knew, we probably knew a number of weeks ago that we'd have a fair amount of salary cap sat on the side for the opening couple of rounds. Rushing guys back from injury. We've challenged them to get back as quick as they can. Obviously we have. At the same time, it'd just be folly on our part to start throwing blokes in before they're ready. So no. People might be getting impatient, and of course we want to see him play, but we feel that there's still a few more boxes for us to tick before we play him, Gary. Yeah, at this moment.
Rich, sorry to jump back in. Tom Holroyd, how's he?
Yeah, he's got a lower leg injury. A bit unfortunate, Tommy. Really, just got his leg caught in the turf. Really, up at Headingley a few weeks ago. So he's just in a leg brace for a couple of weeks. He's out of that now, making progress. But yeah, he's a little bit away from playing yet, Matt. Yeah.